What is up, YouTube? Coach Kolton here, helping people build bodies money simply cannot buy. Subscribe down below for more cool videos like this. I do mostly vlogging, but I love educational content as well. This is a really touchy topic and one that has actually a wide variety of controversy over the internet, and it relates to hair loss, especially when bodybuilding or just using performance-enhancing drugs in general. I want to definitely talk about my story, what I've experienced, show you comparisons from the past until now, and my 4-year journey in bodybuilding as an enhanced drug user. So hair loss in bodybuilding is obviously rampant, and the causes are primarily DHT driven. There's individuals on the online space, educators, that are saying DHT isn't the reason that hair loss is being caused, but I just have not seen that anecdotally. Every time someone includes a DHT compound within their cycle, they start to experience rapid hair loss, sometimes none at all, just dependent on genetic variability there, but for the most part, individuals are going to be losing hair. And you can see this just by looking at any big bodybuilding stage. Most of the guys who are above the age of 25 or so are losing hair, even if they're a classic physique guy. I mean, even just looking at C-Bum, his hairline from 3 years ago till now, oof, it's pretty rough. When leveraging performance-enhancing drugs, you're going to be using some form of a DHT compound or just a testosterone base, but that testosterone is still going to be converted into DHT, and those DHT compounds are going to be acting on that receptor as well. And so that receptor on your scalp is where it's signaling to say, hey, we are going to miniaturize these follicles or your actual hair follicle, and the shrinking is it falling out, getting smaller, and over time that follicle just shrinks up and dies away. So more burden of DHT within the body systemically for a longer duration of time is going to lead to shrinkage of hair follicles over time. And that's absolutely what I've experienced, especially when I just started. I was very, very low testosterone. I have a pituitary disorder, and so I started on TRT, and even just TRT started shedding my hair like crazy. Granted, I was coming from a place of probably hypogonadism, and I was probably not losing as much hair due to not having as much circulating DHT in my system. However, once I hopped on TRT, I would take a shower and my hands would just be covered in my own hair, and I was like freaking out about this. I literally was freaking out. And this was, keep in mind, at the age of almost 21. I was about 20, and it was December or November when I started. And now that's only escalated to more and more and more as I've progressed in my bodybuilding career, obviously explored more drugs, obviously used more of those drugs, and had more side effects. And so I'll kind of show you what I looked like before and during kind of like my first cycles. And then currently now you can see like my hair is, you know, it's like receded back massively, and it's just like thin in general. I could never see my scalp before. Okay, like my hair would be wet and I would not see my scalp. Now I go under some downlighting and it's like my skull is right there and everyone can see it. And to keep in mind, this is on a timeline of, let's just say 21 till my age now 25. And I was, for the first 2 years of my bodybuilding career, extremely passive with how I used performance-enhancing drugs. My fear was at an all-time high when I started because I did the due diligence, I did the research, I followed amazing people in the space like Vigorous Steve and a lot of other educators before I even did anything. My myopic view at that point was like, I never am going over 375 milligrams a year ever. And I literally didn't. Like, testosterone was my thing only. Then I did nandrolone only to prevent hair loss. Really horrible experience. And I like kept myself from going over that limit. So like 400 milligrams, never went over it, ever. For my first prep as an unnatural individual, I literally used 200 milligrams of testosterone a week and 100 milligrams of Masteron a week with 5 milligrams of Anavar every other day. That was my cycle. So even doing that in a very, very reasonable manner, honestly, I still lost a significant amount of hair. Now, some people claim that online, especially like Victor Black, which I love his, education. He points out a lot of flaws in other educators, but he says that hair loss is not caused by DHT derivatives. And in fact, it's more along inflammatory pathways and just poor general health. This is true in research. I mean, we've seen that inflammation and oxidative stress causes massive amounts of hair loss. We see that just stress in general, like psychological stress, causes hair loss, but usually it's like telogen effluvium. It's temporary, right? The hair loss is extremely temporary. But there is correlations with hair loss in men, and actual internal organ health as well as oxidative stress in the body. Like, what is your current oxidative stress or inflammatory markers? And that also relates to skin health too. I reviewed a great study on my Instagram live where I talked about skin health correlating with internal inflammation as well as organ health relating to the kidneys and liver, which is extremely an interesting study. If you want to see it, go to my Instagram, it's on there. It's important to speak about this stuff because really no one realizes the actual effects of losing hair. You think about it and you're like, I'll lose like a little bit of hair just to get huge. Like, I don't care. Or I'll lose a little bit of hair to get a couple more thousand likes and views on TikTok or Instagram. But when you're actually in the process of losing it and you see clumps of hair coming out every single day when you're taking a shower, or when your girlfriend puts her hand through your hair and it's like all of a sudden like she has like a fistful of hair, you're not so confident at that point. And you really start to question what you're doing and if it's worth it. I certainly realized that gear usage would cause hair loss. But in the moment, what I thought was, hey, I would take a little bit of hair loss to get a lot of it of physique. And the truth is like, women don't care about your physique, man. Like, they do not give a shit. They care more about a guy with like a great jawline and a handsome face with a decent head of hair. Now, obviously for me, it's more important than just my hair, right? Like, I'm competing in bodybuilding for a very specific reason, to be the first professional IFBB pro bodybuilder with cerebral palsy without competing in the disabled division. So beyond my hair, I have an exterior goal that's driving me past the insecurities of hair loss. But I am doing some things to prevent my hair loss. I'm going to talk about that here in this video for you guys so you can understand a little bit of what to do in your situation if you're experiencing hair loss like I am. So some of the most basic things I can recommend is using the lowest effective dose of every compound you use. Now, this can be kind of a weird way to approach things because you're using polypharmacy or multiple compounds at once. But the reality is if you can use 10 compounds at their therapeutic dose, the side effect burden, and then thus the oxidative stress, the reactive oxygen species created, inflammation created, is going to be a lot less. So what I do, and specifically what I do with my clients, is use a lot of different compounds, but at a very, very moderate dose, spreading across not just the androgen hammer. I'm using growth hormone, insulin pathways, JAK-STAT pathways, a lot of different things in which I'm influencing growth, but not just depending on hammering that androgen button as hard as I can. I also recommend experimenting with different drugs. Find what works best for you. For me, whatever reason it might be, Primobolan causes way more hair loss than Masteron. I can run a modest dose of Primobolan, let's say at 400 milligrams a week, and do the same with Masteron and experience a significant less amount of hair loss with Masteron when compared to Primobolan. Most people find it, maybe alternatively, they find it that Masteron's driving hair loss much more than Primobolan, but not in my case. And so experimenting with drugs and finding what works best for you and what your body agrees with most is extremely important. Another case scenario is when I use Anadrol, which was like 3 times in my life just for fun, like 2 weeks at a time. My hair literally falls out more than I've ever, like, it is gross how much hair I lose. When I use Anavar or Winstrol or other compounds, it's not nearly as bad. Also, just taking preventative measures, starting your hair loss protocol now versus when you are already in the process of losing hair. This is something that I really messed up on. One mistake I made was I would do something about my hair loss, like hop on Nizoral shampoo or take finasteride or do something else like use I'm forgetting the name of the compound. It's a molecule that blocks the DHT receptor on your scalp. But I would use it for like a month or 2, and then I would stop. I would be inconsistent. I'd be like, my hair looks great, I'm done. Like, and then I would stop and I'd start losing hair again. And so the preventative measures I did take, but I never was consistent with them. And that resulted in a lot of hair loss that I'm honestly probably never gonna get back. The one that bugs me the most is like this, because I used to have beautiful hair that would like drape over the side of my face, and now there's just like this big bald spot right here. I can't do anything about it. And especially now that I'm in prep and taking this prep extremely seriously, I found that stress is up. Obviously, oxidative stress is going to be up. Obviously, systemic inflammation is going to be up. I've lost a lot of hair. Now, a lot of that, again, is telogen effluvium. I'm probably going to grow the majority of it back, but it's still hair loss and I'm losing ground. So I've started to take things a lot more serious in these past 3 weeks with my hair loss. I'm going to kind of let you know what my whole protocol is. So hopefully you can use it and maybe leverage some results for yourself if you are lost beyond repair. So I use a mix from Struts, and I highly recommend this company. They're a really, really great company. I'll link them down below. I literally get no kickback from it. This is just their company link. They make this really awesome 4-in-1 mix I use. It has minoxidil in it. It has dutasteride in it, tretinoin in it, and it does have a little bit of topical spirolactone. Now this is really awesome because all of these compounds work very synergistically together. Obviously dutasteride is inhibiting that DHT receptor, or it's at least blocking it, whereas the tretinoin is actually increasing the effectiveness of minoxidil. Minoxidil is actually causing new hair growth. So they're all kind of working synergistically together. It works really, really well for me. And I apply that usually every day after I take a shower once my hair is a little bit drier. Next, I do use microneedling. Really the concept here is that you're literally applying small injuries around your scalp using needles, and you just simply roll a roller around on your head and it pokes little holes, and this initiates the healing process and increases blood flow around that local area, releasing certain peptides and proteins that are going to help mechanistically cause hair growth. Now it's not really, there's a lot of good research on it actually. There's effective research showing that this could possibly 10x your results from minoxidil treatment, but there's not like any real concrete evidence, and especially like long-term evidence. So again, before I do this about twice a week before I'm applying my therapy, the topical therapy, and I'm just rolling my scalp kind of diagonally, vertically, and then horizontally as well, to get a lot of those effects kind of systemically. And then I'm also, really going hard here to try to do as much as I can to regrow that area. I'm also using ketoconazole shampoo, or Nazorol, which is the brand name. From my understanding, and I'm actually not very careful with this, I don't research a ton of hair loss things just because it doesn't interest me as much as other pharmaceutical pathways. But from my understanding, it inhibits, again, DHT conversion. I could be completely wrong on that, but it does do something relevant for hair loss. So I shampoo my hair with that at least every other day. Sometimes I'll do every day, just depending on what's happening. I noticed though, it can make your hair look like shit because it gets dry and stringy. It's a pretty harsh shampoo, so I would recommend maybe alternating that and then using conditioner on days that you do not use the Nazorol shampoo. Just my personal experience there. And then the other thing that I would really recommend is keeping SHBG as high as possible, sex hormone binding globulin. This is going to allow a lot of that free testosterone that's unbound to be bound to something and have more of a physiological appropriate effect, or a homeostatic effect within your body. A lot of bodybuilders simply push the envelope with DHT compounds or even just a high dose of testosterone, and that suppresses sex hormone binding globulin pretty drastically. I mean, it precipitously falls. And so you have a lot more unbound hormone flowing around your body, and that unbound hormone can easily be converted or just go straight to the scalp and exert its effects on tissue there, which obviously is going to lead to the miniaturization of your hair follicle. Some really good ways to keep SHBG up. Obviously, don't use a shit ton of drugs. That's like no-brainer. Try to limit your DHT usage. I would say do blood work, find what dosage you're at that kind of sustains a decent sex hormone binding globulin, but as soon as you start leveraging a ton of DHT compounds, you start to experience a pretty rapid loss in sex hormone binding globulin. One interesting thing to note is that there's been a lot of peer-reviewed data that shows that basically fiber intake, a high fiber intake, like high, above 30 grams a day in men, can actually increase SHBG levels pretty drastically. Metformin has been shown to pretty drastically increase SHBG levels as well. That's something that I'm just always going to have within a client stack for the most part, unless they adversely react to it through GI symptoms. Resveratrol has been shown to increase SHBG levels. And really the big ones that I don't think people consider a lot when they're talking about sex hormone binding globulin is stress, sleep, and adequate hydration. These things massively affect sex hormone binding globulin. When you get a dude who is on a ton of gear, he's hyperadrenergic, and he doesn't sleep very long, maybe 5 hours, he's like, I'm good, bro. You're not good. And you probably have sleep apnea, disturbing your sleep in general, again, suppressing sex hormone binding globulin like a mofo. Then you're gonna be already stressed because you have this hyper vigilant state going on, and you're going throughout life, which you're already gonna be like wildly stressed from that, trust me. And then you go to train extremely heavy, more stress, more inflammation, limiting gear dosages, as well as using gear that doesn't affect you psychologically as much as others might, i.e. something like Trend, is a really good idea and a great insurance policy to keep your SHBG at least a physiological level. And that's really just what I recommend, is keeping things simple, not overcomplicating it. It's very hard as a bodybuilder when you're doing like 20 things a day on a daily basis in your protocol already, and then you have to add like 6 more on for hair loss because you're already doing this, and then maybe you're doing like some penis enlargement protocol, and it's like you have like 20,000 different freaking protocols you have to do throughout the day, and you didn't actually make any money or start any relationships or like experience life. So in my mind, it's like, okay, the cost to benefit ratio is keep the stuff you have to do in a day at its absolute minimum and maximize your productivity potential and your ability to grow an amazing ego that helps people and not harms them. But that's kind of my review on this, I guess you could say. Hair loss sucks. I'm definitely dealing with it in what I believe to be the most appropriate way. It's worked for now. I still have my hair, obviously. I just would like to see more hair for sure, but it's what it is. You know, you win some, you lose some. There is a cost to every benefit, and unfortunately biology doesn't give free lunch. It's gonna take something away from you when you alter it. So if you guys enjoyed that video, please like, comment, and subscribe down below. It would mean the world. Especially commenting is gonna help that algorithm way big time. Visit my website, Built by Blood Coaching. Visit my website, bloodbuiltcoaching.com. I have a ton of cool blogs there where you can read a lot about what I'm doing, what are my cycles, some recommendations I make, and all that good stuff. I post a lot of short form content on Instagram and TikTok, so make sure you follow me there too. Otherwise, have a beautiful evening. Deuces.